Abigail Reed crossed the threshold of Hale House with her boots ruined, her pride bleeding, and her dead father's last letter folded against her heart. When the master of that house looked her up and down like a mare at market and spat, "I can hire 50 women like you before sundown, Miss Reed," she did not flinch. She lifted her chin. She said, "Then go and hire them, Mr. Hale." And she turned back toward the summer storm. She would have walked straight into the Hudson that night had a child's scream not stopped her at the door. If this story moves you, please tap subscribe and stay with me until the very last word. And leave a comment telling me which city you're listening from tonight. I love seeing just how far these stories travel. Abigail Reed did not knock twice. She struck the heavy door of Hale House with the flat of her palm, and she waited in the hammering July rain with her teeth set hard against the shiver that wanted to break her apart. A thin-faced manservant opened the door, took one long look at her, and tried to close it again. "Don't you dare, sir," she said. Quiet, even. "I was sent for." "Ma'am, the master don't receive beggars at the front." "I am not a beggar. I am the governess. Stand aside." "Round to the kitchen, ma'am. That's the way of it." "I will not come round to the kitchen like a stray dog, Mr. Pike, Jonas Pike. Mr. Pike, you will tell your master that Miss Abigail Reed is at his front door, and that if he turns her back out into this storm, I reckon he can write the letter to Reverend Price himself explaining why." Jonas Pike looked at her for a long moment. She knew what he saw. Soaked skirts, heavy as lead, boots worn through at the heel, gloves split at the seam, a face that had not eaten a proper meal in 9 days. He saw all of it. But he also saw something else, something that kept his hand off the door. He stepped aside. "Wait in the hall, ma'am, and don't touch nothing." She stepped past him, and the water from her skirt spread across the polished boards like a confession she could not take back.
"Ciao, Po."
Nathaniel Hale did not rise when she entered his study. He did not turn. He stood at the tall window with his back to her, a summer storm breaking the glass, and he let her stand there dripping for a full minute before he spoke. "Miss Reed." "Yes, sir." "You are late." "The coach broke an axle past Poughkeepsie, Mr. Hale. I walked the last 4 miles." "In this weather?" "In this weather, sir." "A woman of your breeding ought to have sent word. A woman of my breeding, sir, no longer owns the paper to send it on." He turned at that. He was taller than she had pictured from the Reverend's letter, broader, older than his 38 years around the eyes, the way a man ages when grief has dug in and refused to leave. His face was the kind of face carved out of long winters, and there was nothing welcoming in it. Nothing at all. He looked her over the way a man looks over livestock at the market, head to hem to head. When he finished, his mouth turned down. "Sit." "I am soaked through, sir. I will stain the chair." "Sit, Miss Reed." She sat. He did not sit. He moved to the desk and took up a sheet of paper. Her letter of introduction. She knew the hand on it. Reverend Price had written it himself late of a Sunday evening, and she had watched him seal it. "Your father is dead," Nathaniel said. "Yes, sir. 8 months past. Fever." "Yes." "He left debts." She did not answer. "He left debts, Miss Reed. Your uncle sold off the Reed farm in June. Your mother died when you were 9. You have no brothers. You have one aunt in Albany who will not receive you." He set the paper down. "Is that the whole of it, or would you care to add something Reverend Price had the kindness to leave out? I cannot imagine what else you would need to know, sir. Whether you are the sort of woman who weeps." "No, sir." "No. That is a considerable claim, Miss Reed. I have done all my weeping, Mr. Hale. I do not expect to do any more." He studied her. "We shall see." "You will not call me Nathaniel. You will not call me sir beyond the first morning. You will call me Mr. Hale, always and only. You will wake at 5. You will breakfast at 6 with my daughter. You will instruct her in letters, arithmetic, needlework, scripture, and proper comportment for a young lady of standing until noon. You will take the midday meal with her. You will walk her in the afternoon, weather permitting. You will return her to the house at 4 and present her clean and quiet in the drawing room. You will eat your supper in the nursery. You will not come into the main parlors after dusk. You will not speak to my business associates. You will not speak to me unless spoken to. You will answer only in full sentences. Am I understood? Yes, Mr. Hale. My daughter is 7 years old. She is willful. She is disobedient. She invents illnesses to avoid her lessons. She weeps on purpose in front of company. She has on 3 separate occasions struck a servant. You will break these habits. You will not indulge them. Break them, sir. Correct them. May I ask a question, Mr. Hale? No. I am going to ask it anyway, sir, if you do not mind. His eyes came up. There was something in them then, something sharp that had not been there a moment before. Go on. When did her mother die? The silence that fell in that study was not the silence of thunder between lightning. It was older than that, deeper. It was the silence that lives inside a house after a woman has died, and no one has dared to say her name out loud for a long, long time. That is not your concern, Miss Reed. She struck a servant, sir. 3 times you said. A child of 7 does not strike a servant because she is wicked. She strikes because she is frightened, and she has no other word for it. You have been in my house 11 minutes, and you are already diagnosing my daughter. I am telling you what I know of grief, Mr. Hale, because you asked if I was a woman who wept. I did not ask for your sermon. I did not offer one, sir. I answered the question you set me. He came around the desk. He did not stop until he was standing over her, and a lesser woman might have shrunk. She did not shrink. She lifted her face to his. Miss Reed, let us understand one another. I am not hiring a nurse. I am not hiring a companion. I am not hiring a mother. My daughter had a mother. She has one no longer. What she requires now is a governess who will teach her discipline, because discipline is the only thing in this world that will keep her standing when it comes for her again. Is that understood? Mr. Hale. Is that understood, Miss Reed? A child is not a soldier, sir. I beg your pardon. A child is not a soldier. You cannot drill grief out of her. You will only drive it deeper. You presume. I was 9, sir, when my mother died. My father did exactly what you are doing. And I loved him. I loved him until the day he died. But I will tell you what I learned from him, Mr. Hale, and I will tell you it now, because you will not let me say it later. A child raised on cold does not grow strong. A child raised on cold grows afraid. And the day that child finds somebody warm, she will run to them, and she will never come home. He looked at her. She looked back. And then, slow, deliberate, like a man laying down a hand of cards he had been holding for years, Nathaniel Hale smiled. It was not a kind smile. I can hire 50 women like you, Miss Reed, before sundown. I can have the Reverend send me another by Tuesday. Prettier, quieter, better bred. Women who will not come into my house on their first day and lecture me on the raising of my own child. She rose from the chair. Then do it, Mr. Hale. I beg your pardon. Then do it, sir. Go and hire them. Hire 50. Hire 100. I wish you joy of them. She curtsied. The water ran off her hem onto his rug. Good evening to you. Miss Reed. Good evening, sir. She walked. She did not run. She did not rush. She walked the length of his study with her back straight and her chin up, and she was at the door, her hand on the brass before he spoke again. You will be dead by morning. She stopped. She did not turn. I beg your pardon, Mr. Hale. The roads are flooded. The coach will not run again till Thursday. There is no inn that will take in a woman at this hour without a purse. I am telling you plainly, Miss Reed. You will walk out of this house and you will be dead by morning. Is that what you intend? She turned her head, just enough to show him her profile. That, sir, is no longer your concern. And she opened the door. Don't. It was a child's voice. It came from the top of the staircase, and it was not a word so much as a cry torn out of a throat too small to hold it. Don't go. Don't. Abigail looked up. A girl stood on the landing in a white nightdress, barefoot, gripping the banister with both hands, as though the house might pitch her off it. She had her father's dark hair. She had the pale, held-in face of a child who had done all her crying alone in the dark for a very long time. She broke on the stairs in her white nightdress, with her small hands white on the banister, and the sound that came out of her was not a child's weeping. It was older than that. It was the weeping of a person who has discovered at 7 years of age that the people you love go out into the weather and they do not come home. Abigail did not think. She moved. She was up the first 3 stairs before she knew her feet had taken her. She was halfway up when Nathaniel called her name, sharp, shocked a command, and she did not stop. She went to the child. She went down onto her knees on the landing, soaked through as she was, and she opened her arms, and Lucy Hale, who had struck 3 servants and wept in front of company, and invented illnesses, and refused her lessons, Lucy Hale fell into her. "Hush, darling. Hush now. I have you. Don't go, don't go, don't go. I am right here." She went out in the rain and she didn't come back. She didn't come back. She didn't. "I know, sweet girl. I know. Hush. Everybody goes. Everybody goes and they don't. I am right here, Lucy. I am right here." The child wept against her shoulder, and Abigail, who had not wept in 8 months, who had sworn in the coach that morning that she was done with weeping forever, felt the first hot tear slide down her own cheek and did not wipe it off. She looked down over Lucy's dark head. Nathaniel Hale stood at the foot of the stairs. He had not moved. He had one hand on the newel post, and his face the carved winter face. The face that had looked her over, like livestock, had gone perfectly terribly still. He was watching his daughter. He was watching his daughter weep into the arms of a stranger in a wet dress on the landing of his house, and something in his face was coming apart. "Mr. Hale." He did not answer. "Mr. Hale." "Yes." "I will stay the night." "Yes." "I will stay until the coach runs again." "Yes." "And we will speak in the morning, sir. You and I. About terms." "Yes, Miss Reed." "Now come up the stairs, Mr. Hale. Your daughter needs you." He did not move. "Come up the stairs, sir." Still, he did not move. He stood at the foot of his own staircase, and he stared at the child in her nightdress. And Abigail Reed understood very suddenly that this man did not know how. He did not know how to climb the stairs to his daughter. He did not know how to cross the last 12 feet between himself and the child he had made. "Mr. Hale, I cannot." "Sir, I cannot, Miss Reed, not tonight." And he turned and he walked back into his study, and he shut the door behind him so quietly, it was almost worse than if he had slammed it. Abigail carried Lucy to the nursery herself. She did not wait to be shown the room. The child told her in a small voice, muffled against her collarbone, "Third door, miss on the right past the blue vase." And Abigail walked her there, past the astonished Jonas Pike, past a white-faced chambermaid, past an older woman in a gray dress who came out of a parlor door with her hand at her throat and said nothing, only watched them pass. In the nursery, Abigail sat on the edge of the small bed with Lucy in her lap, and she unpinned her own wet hair, and she let the child cry herself out against her shoulder. "Miss." "Yes, Lucy." "Miss, are you going to go away in the morning?" "I do not know yet, sweet girl." "Because of Papa. Because of many things." "Papa said something ugly to you. I heard him." "You ought not to have been on the stairs, Lucy." "I know." "Why were you on the stairs, darling?" The child was quiet a long time. "Because I heard your voice, miss." "My voice?" "I heard your voice in the hall. And I came down because, Lucy. Because it sounded like somebody was going to stay." Abigail closed her eyes. She held the child against her, and she closed her eyes, and she breathed once deep, and she did not let the sound that wanted out of her chest get out of her chest. "Lucy." "Yes, miss. I am going to tell you something true. Are you listening to me, Lucy Hale?" "Yes, miss." "I do not make promises I cannot keep. Not to children. Not to anybody. So I will not tell you tonight that I will never leave you. I do not know that yet. Do you understand me, Lucy?" Yes, but I will tell you this, and it is true. I will not leave you tonight. I will not leave you tomorrow. I will not leave you the day after that. And when the day comes that I must, you will know it long before it comes, and you will not wake up and find me gone. Do you hear me, Lucy? Yes, miss. Say it back to me, sweet girl. You won't be gone when I wake up. That is right. Ever. Not unless I have told you first. The child was quiet. Then, very small, Mama was gone when I woke up. I know, darling. Nobody told me first. I know. Papa doesn't say her name anymore. I know, Lucy. I forgot what she sounded like, miss. I tried and I tried, but I forgot. Oh, sweet girl. Is that wicked, miss? To forget? No, Lucy. No, darling. No, that is not wicked. That is only how small a girl is, and how big a thing it is to lose your mother. The child cried again then, but it was a different crying. It was the crying of something letting go, not the crying of something breaking. And Abigail Reed, who had come to this house to earn her bread and nothing more, who had sworn at the crossroads that afternoon that she would not be made to feel anything ever again, sat on the edge of the nursery bed in her soaked dress, and she held Nathaniel Hale's motherless daughter against her heart, and she understood with a clarity that frightened her, that she was not going to be able to walk back out of this house the way she had walked into it. Down the hall in the dark outside the nursery door, a man stood listening. He had come up the stairs after all. He had come up them one at a time, like a man going to the gallows, and he had stopped 6 feet short of the nursery door, and he had stood there in the dark of his own hallway, for he did not know how long, and he had listened to his daughter say the word "Mama" for the first time in 16 months. His hand was against the wall. His face was wet. Nathaniel Hale, who could hire 50 women like Abigail Reed before sundown, stood in the dark of his own house, and he wept without a sound, and he did not go in. Morning came into Hale House the way morning comes into a house where nobody slept. Quiet, gray, cautious. Abigail had not moved from the nursery bed. Lucy was still asleep against her shoulder, small fist closed in the fabric of Abigail's dress, and Abigail sat upright as a sentry, her back aching, her dress stiff and half dry, and she did not let the child shift 1 inch off her chest. A soft knock came at the nursery door. "Come," Abigail said, quiet so as not to wake the girl. The door opened, and the older woman Abigail had passed in the hall last night stepped through. Gray dress, silver hair, a face that had seen a great deal and forgiven most of it and not forgotten any of it. "Miss Reed." "Ma'am." "I am Mrs. Hale, Nathaniel's mother." "Yes, ma'am." "Don't rise." "I wasn't going to, ma'am. I can't." Martha Hale looked at her grandchild. She looked at the sleeping girl a long time. Then she looked at Abigail, and her eyes were very clear. "How long has she been like that?" "Since about 11:30, ma'am." "In your arms the whole night?" "Yes." "And you have not slept?" "No, ma'am." Martha Hale nodded once, just once. She crossed the room. She laid one papery hand very lightly on Abigail's wet sleeve. "Miss Reed, my son is going to come to you in 1 hour, and he is going to try to send you away." "I expected he would." "You will not go." "Ma'am, you will not go, Miss Reed. Do you understand me? You will stand your ground, and you will hold that child, and you will not go." "Mrs. Hale, he has not seen her weep in 16 months. He has not heard her say that word in 16 months. He does not know what to do with what happened on those stairs last night. And because he does not know what to do with it, he is going to try to make it go away. That is my son. That is the man grief has made him. I am telling you now because I will not get another chance to tell you, and because I have been praying for a 1.5 years, Miss Reed, for somebody exactly like you to walk through that front door. I don't know as I'm anything like what you prayed for, ma'am." "I didn't ask what you thought you were." And Martha Hale squeezed her arm once hard and went back out and shut the door. When Nathaniel Hale came for her at 8 o'clock, he did not find a soaked stranger in his study. He found a woman in a borrowed gray morning dress, hair, pinned hands folded, seated across his desk with her chin level and her eyes steady. He stopped in the doorway. "Miss Reed." "Mr. Hale." "You are still here." "You said we would discuss terms in the morning, sir." "It is morning." He closed the door. He went behind his desk. He did not sit. Last night, sir. Let us speak of this morning. Miss Reed, I do not think— Mr. Hale, before you dismiss me, I should like you to know 3 things. May I? Go on. The first. Your daughter slept last night. She has not slept, your mother tells me, a full night through in 16 months. She slept last night because somebody held her. That is a fact, sir. I offer it without pride. Miss Reed, the second. I am not the governess you wanted. I am too plain-spoken. I am too poor. I am too close in age to you to be quite respectable in this household. I know all of that. I also know, Mr. Hale, that you will not find a woman in this county who will speak to that child the way she needs to be spoken to. Not one. You may try. You may have 50 of them by Tuesday. None of them will sleep in that chair last night. And the third, Miss Reed. The third, sir, is this. I will not be your enemy. I came into this house yesterday prepared to be. I am not this morning. I am asking you as a man who loved his wife, and I know you did, Mr. Hale. I heard it in the silence last night. I am asking you to let me try. For 30 days. If in 30 days your daughter is not better, I will walk out of this house myself, and I will not take a penny of your money with me. He did not answer. He stood behind his desk and he stared at her, and she watched his jaw work once, twice, and she knew before he opened his mouth that she had him. 60 days. 40. 60, Miss Reed. And you will not speak to me unless I speak to you. 50, sir. And I will speak to you when the child requires it. Miss Reed? The child will require it, Mr. Hale. You know she will. He breathed out through his nose. 50 days. Thank you, sir. Do not thank me, Miss Reed. I am not giving you a kindness. I am giving you enough rope to hang yourself. Then I shall endeavor, sir, not to be hanged. And for one instant, so fast she almost missed it. The corner of Nathaniel Hale's mouth moved. Not a smile, nothing near it, but something. A crack. He turned away to hide it. Go. You have a child to instruct. Yes, Mr. Hale. She did not instruct her that morning. She fed her. She took Lucy down to the breakfast room herself before any of the servants had finished laying the table, and she sat the child on a chair beside her, not across from her, and she buttered a thick slab of bread, and she set it in front of Lucy, and she said, "Eat, please." Lucy looked at the bread. Lucy looked at Abigail. Lucy looked at the bread. "I don't eat breakfast, miss." "You do today." "I am not hungry." "I did not ask if you were hungry, Lucy Hale. I asked you to eat." "Miss Agnes used to make me eat." "Who is Miss Agnes?" "The one before. She went away." "Ah. She said I was greedy if I ate." "Did she now?" "She said little girls who eat too much grow thick and ugly, and nobody marries them." Abigail set down her own bread very slowly. She looked at the child. She took a long, even breath through her nose. "Lucy." "Yes, miss." "Miss Agnes was a fool." The girl's head came up. "Miss, a fool. Lucy, a thin-souled, mean-mouthed, empty-headed fool, and we are going to forget every single thing she ever told you, starting with that one. You are 7 years old. You are going to eat. You are going to grow. You are going to be tall and strong and smart, and the day that a man tells you that you are thick and ugly is the day we will know he is not worth the breath it takes to say his name. Do you hear me, Lucy Hale?" The child stared at her. "Miss, eat your bread, sweetheart." Lucy ate her bread. She ate it in small bites, at first cautious, watching Abigail between each one, as though the rebuke might come any second. It did not come. Abigail ate her own slice. She did not look at Lucy. She let the child eat in peace. Lucy finished the bread. Lucy reached for a second slice. Lucy stopped. Lucy looked up quick, the way a creature looks up in the brush. "You may," Abigail said. She did not look over. Lucy took the second slice. At the doorway behind them, Nathaniel Hale stood in the hall with his hand on the frame, and he watched his daughter eat 2 slices of bread for the first time since her mother died, and he did not come in, and he did not go away, and his face did not move at all. The first week at Hale House went like this. Lucy woke at 6 because Abigail did. Lucy ate because Abigail said so. Lucy walked in the garden at 4 because Abigail took her hand and led her out. Lucy read a page out of the Psalter every morning because Abigail sat with her and read it first, and Lucy copied the letters because Abigail praised the ones that came out clean and said nothing of the ones that came out crooked. On the 4th day, Lucy laughed. It was not a big laugh. It was a small, startled thing like a bird flying up out of long grass. And it happened because Abigail slipped on a patch of damp flagstone in the kitchen garden and sat down hard on her backside in full view of the peppers, and Lucy laughed before she could stop herself. And then the child went white and clapped both hands over her mouth and looked at Abigail in absolute terror. "Oh, Miss Lucy. Oh, Miss, I am so sorry. Lucy, stop. I ought not to have. Lucy Hale, listen to me." Abigail stayed right where she was on the cold stones. She did not get up. "You are allowed to laugh." "But Papa says, I am not your Papa." "But if he hears, then he will hear you laughing. And if he punishes you for laughing, Lucy, I will stand in front of you, and you will hide behind me, and I will argue it out with him myself. Do you understand?" The child's mouth trembled. "Yes, miss." "Now, help me up." Lucy helped her up. Lucy was still holding her hand when they walked back into the house. And that small, warm weight, 5 fingers in hers, was the first thing Abigail Reed had held in her hand in 8 months that did not feel like the end of something. Say, on the 6th day, Eleanor Whitcomb came. She came in a fine summer carriage with 2 matched bays and a driver in a dark coat. And she was announced by Jonas Pike, in a voice that was careful not to betray what he thought of her. And she swept into the front parlor of Hale House, in a cream muslin morning dress, with a lavender silk sash, and she kissed Martha Hale on the cheek, and called her dearest aunt. And she said she had heard the most extraordinary news from town, and she simply had to come and see with her own eyes. Abigail was in the nursery doing sums with Lucy when a maid came up and told her Mrs. Whitcomb had asked to meet the new governess. "Did she ask, or did she send for me?" "Miss, there is a difference." She sent for you, miss." "Thank you, Hattie." Abigail did not hurry. She finished the sum she was working on with Lucy. She set down the slate. She told Lucy to practice her 8s, and she went down. Eleanor Whitcomb was 29 years old. She was beautiful. She was the first cousin of Nathaniel's dead wife, and she had loved her cousin genuinely, and she had loved the Hale fortune for a very long time, and she had loved her cousin's husband quietly and without hope for almost as long, and grief had taught her nothing. She rose when Abigail entered. She smiled. "So you are the new miss?" "Abigail Reed, ma'am." "Reed. I know the name. The Albany Reeds. No, those are the shipping Reeds. The Catskill Reeds. Yes, your father was Daniel Reed, ma'am, of Hillsgate Farm." "Hillsgate? Oh, my dear, the one that was sold off last spring." "Yes." "Poor thing. Thank you, ma'am. And now you are here teaching little Lucy her letters. How perfectly providential." "Providential, ma'am. One door closes, does it not? So I have been told." "Nathaniel is very generous." "He is a fair employer, ma'am." Eleanor sipped her tea. Her eyes did not leave Abigail's face. "Tell me, Miss Reed, do you know why the last 3 governesses left Hale House?" "I was told the post was difficult, ma'am." "Oh no, my dear, the post was not difficult. The post was impossible, because little Lucy, poor darling little Lucy, cannot be loved. Not truly. She has her father's coldness and her mother's constitution, and something more besides something that belongs only to her, and it has broken 3 good women already." Eleanor smiled. "I only tell you, Miss Reed, because I should hate to see a 4th. That is very considerate of you, ma'am. I am considerate by nature. Yes, ma'am. I can see that. Eleanor's eyes sharpened just a hair. Martha Hale across the room said, "More tea, Eleanor dear," in a voice like an ice-cutting saw. "Thank you, Aunt." "No, I was just leaving." Tag. Eleanor did not leave. Not right away. She asked to see Lucy. Martha said Lucy was at her lessons. Eleanor said she wouldn't dream of interrupting. She would simply go up and watch for a moment. She went up. Abigail followed her because she was not going to let that woman into that nursery without a chaperone, and Eleanor swept in with a wide smile and said, "Lucy, darling, look at you so grown." And Lucy looked up from her slate and went absolutely still. "Aunt Eleanor, kiss me, sweetness." The child got up out of her chair like a small soldier getting up out of a trench. She walked the 4 steps to Eleanor. She lifted her face. Eleanor kissed her forehead. Lucy did not move. "Such a serious little thing, just like your mama." Lucy said nothing. "I miss her so, Lucy. I think of her every day." "Yes, Aunt." "And you, darling, you must miss her most of all." "Yes, Aunt." "Come here. Come. Sit with your Aunt Eleanor a moment." Lucy looked at Abigail. It was a tiny look, quick, scared, asking. "Mrs. Whitcomb," Abigail said. "Forgive me. Lucy has not finished her sums." "Oh, Miss Reed, surely her aunt may have—" "She has not finished her sums, ma'am. Mr. Hale is quite particular." Eleanor's smile froze. "Of course. Thank you, ma'am." "Of course." Eleanor left. She left with her chin up and her sash perfectly draped, and she went out to her carriage, and she did not look back once, and Lucy, who had stood like a soldier the whole time, collapsed into her chair the instant the front door shut downstairs, and put her head down on the slate and began to shake. "Lucy." "I don't want to see her, miss. I don't want to see her. Please don't make me see her." Shh, sweet girl. Nobody is making you see anybody. She smells like Mama." "Oh, Lucy, she smells like Mama, and she is not Mama. And it makes me want to—" The child did not finish. The child was 7 years old, and she did not have the words for what Eleanor Whitcomb's perfume did to her, and Abigail Reed sat down on the floor beside the child's chair and took the small shaking body in her arms and did not try to make her find the words. That evening, Nathaniel Hale sent for Abigail. She came down to the study at 9:15. He was at the window again, back to the door, the way he always was. "Mr. Hale." "Eleanor Whitcomb called today." "Yes, sir." "She stayed an hour." "Yes, sir." "She tells me, Miss Reed, that you were discourteous to her in my mother's parlor, that you contradicted her, that you refused to allow her a moment with my daughter, that you overstepped, in considerable detail." "Yes, sir, I expect she did." He turned. Well, sir, did you?" "Overstep, sir." "Answer the question, Miss Reed." "Yes, Mr. Hale, I did. I refused to let your daughter sit on your wife's cousin's lap. I refused to send her away from her lessons. I refused to let Mrs. Whitcomb wear your dead wife's perfume into the nursery of a child who has been trying for 16 months not to remember what her mother smelled like. Yes, sir, I did all of that. And I would do it again tomorrow. Mr. Hale and I would do it the day after that. And you may dismiss me for it tonight, and I will still tell you you were wrong to send that woman up those stairs." The silence in the study was long. "Miss Reed?" "Mr. Hale." "Her mother's perfume." "Lucy told me so, sir." "Lucy told you so?" "Yes." "Lucy Hale, my daughter, told you that Mrs. Whitcomb wears her mother's perfume." "Yes, sir. She said Mrs. Whitcomb smells like her mama." He sat down. He sat down in the chair behind his desk like a man whose knees had been cut out from under him, and he put one hand flat on the leather, and he stared at nothing for a long time. "I did not know." "No, sir. I have been sending that woman up to my daughter for a year. I have been telling Lucy to be kind to her. I have been—" "Yes, sir." "I did not know Miss Reed." "I know, sir." "Why did nobody—" "Because Lucy did not know how to tell you, sir, and because your mother is afraid of your grief, and because the servants are afraid of your temper. And because everyone in this house has spent 16 months walking around you, Mr. Hale, as though you were the only one in it who had lost her." He closed his eyes. "Miss Reed." "Yes, Mr. Hale." "Get out." "Yes, sir." "Get out of my study." "Yes, sir." "Now, Miss Reed, please, now." She got out. 2 days later, Lucy told her. They were in the garden. Lucy had been very quiet all morning, and she had held Abigail's hand the whole walk, and when they sat down on the stone bench by the hedge, Lucy did not let go. "Miss." "Yes, Lucy." "I have to tell you something." "All right, sweetheart." "It is a bad something." "I am ready." "Miss, I killed my mama." Abigail did not move, did not turn, did not gasp, did not do any of the things a less careful woman would have done. "Tell me, Lucy." "She was sick. She was sick all winter. She was very sick. And Papa said we had to be quiet. We had to let her rest. And I was quiet, miss. I was quiet for such a long time. And then one day I had a splinter in my finger and I cried. And Papa said, 'Shh, shh, you'll wake your mama.' And I tried, miss. I tried to be quiet, but it hurt. And I was only 6. And I cried. And I woke her. And she got up out of bed to come to me, and she was not supposed to get up. Miss, the doctor said she was not supposed to get up. And she got up and she came to me, and that was the night oh, Lucy. That was the night, miss. That was the night. I killed her. With the splinter, with crying. Papa does not know. Papa does not know, and if he knew he would send me away, he would send me away forever. So please, miss, please, please don't tell him. Please don't." Abigail Reed had held a great deal in her life. She had held her dying father. She had held her own hand over her own mouth in the Albany coach station on a night when nobody had anywhere to put her. She had held herself upright through a lawyer's office and through the sale of her childhood bed. She did not know until that moment in the Hale House garden that she could hold a child who believed she had killed her own mother. Lucy. "Please, miss, Lucy Hale, look at me. Look at me, sweet girl." The child looked at her. "You did not kill your mother." "But miss, listen. Listen to me. Your mother was dying before you cried. Your mother was dying before the splinter. Your mother was dying for months. Lucy, and she got up that night because she was your mother, and because a mother will get out of bed for her child if she is dying, and if she is dead, and if she is anywhere in God's whole creation, where she can still hear her baby cry. That is not you killing her, Lucy. That is her loving you. But Papa, your Papa does not know Lucy because no one has told him. And I am going to tell him. No, listen. I am going to tell him because he cannot love you the way you need to be loved while he does not know. Do you understand me? Do you understand, Lucy, that he is not angry with you? He is angry at the whole wide world that let her go, and he does not know where to put it, and it lands on you because you are the only piece of her he has left, and that is not right. That is not right, Lucy, and I am going to fix it. He'll send me away. He will not. He will. Lucy Hale, look at me. He will not send you away. If he tries to send you away, I will take you with me to Albany myself, and he will have to come fetch us both, and I will put up such a fight, little one, he will wish he had never been born. Do you hear me? And the child, small, exhausted 16 months of silence cracking out of her, at last laughed. It was a wet, breaking laugh, half a sob. But it was a laugh, and she pressed her face into Abigail's shoulder, and she said muffled, "He won't like that, miss." "No, sweetheart, he surely won't." Abigail went down to find Nathaniel that night. She did not send a servant. She did not wait for morning. She walked the length of the hall, and she knocked on his study door, and when he said come, she came in, and she shut the door behind her, and she said, "Mr. Hale, I must speak with you. It is about Lucy, and it cannot wait till morning." He looked up from his ledger. He saw her face. He set down his pen. "Sit, Miss Reed." "No, sir. I will stand." "So will you, if you please." Miss Reed. "Stand up, Mr. Hale. What I have to say to you, I will not say across a desk." He stood, and she told him. She told him slowly. She told him every word the child had said. She told him about the splinter. She told him about the cry. She told him about the 16 months of silence that a 7-year-old had carried around in her chest like a stone. She watched his face change, and she did not look away. And when she was done, she said, "Your daughter believes she killed your wife, sir. Your daughter believes you will send her away if you ever find out. Your daughter has been dying of this for a year and 4 months, and not one person in this house knew it, and I am telling you now, Mr. Hale, because I am not going to stand by one more day and let a 7-year-old bury that alone." He did not speak. He stood behind his desk, and he did not speak, and she saw the thing she had seen on the stairs that first night, the thing coming apart behind his face. And this time, she did not look away from it. "Mr. Hale." "Yes?" "Say something, sir." "I cannot." "You must. For her, you must." "Miss Reed." "Sir." "Get my daughter." "Sir." "Get my daughter, Miss Reed. Get her out of that bed. Carry her if she is sleeping. Bring her here. Bring her to me now." "Mr. Hale, it is past 10. Now, Miss Reed, please." She went. She went up the stairs 2 at a time. She lifted Lucy half asleep, warm and limp, out of the small bed, and the child murmured, "Miss," into her shoulder. And Abigail said, "Your papa wants you, sweetheart." And Lucy went tight as a bowstring in her arms and whispered, "No, no, please." And Abigail said, "Trust me, Lucy. One more time. Trust me." She carried the child down. She carried her into the study, and she set her down on her own feet on the rug, and Nathaniel Hale, the man who did not know how to cross the last 12 feet of a staircase, came around his desk, and he went down all the way down onto both knees in front of his daughter, and his face was wet, and his hands were shaking, and he said, "Lucy, my Lucy, listen to me. Papa, you did not kill your mother." The child's face broke. "Papa, you did not kill her, Lucy. You did not. Your mother was sick, my darling. She was sick a very long time, and it was not the splinter, and it was not the crying, and it was not anything that a little girl did. Do you hear me? Do you hear me, Lucy Hale? Your mother loved you so much, sweetheart. She loved you so much, she got out of bed because you were hurting. That is not a sin. That is not a wicked thing. That is the best thing, Lucy. That is the best thing a person can do." "Papa? Papa, I am sorry, Lucy. I am so sorry. I did not know. I did not know, my love, and I ought to have known, and I am sorry, and I will never send you away. Not for this, not for anything, not ever, not one day in your whole life." The child went into her father's arms, and Nathaniel Hale, on his knees in his own study, at 10:30 on a Tuesday evening in July of 1817, held his 7-year-old daughter for the first time in 16 months, and wept into her hair. Abigail Reed stood at the door. She did not come in any further. She did not leave. She stood with her hands folded at her waist, and she watched a man and his child come home to each other across the length of a hardwood floor, and she understood with the kind of understanding that is not a thought, but a fact, the way a body understands cold, that she had just fallen in love with Nathaniel Hale, and that it was going to cost her everything she had left. Nathaniel Hale did not sleep that night either. He sat in his study with his daughter asleep against his shoulder, her small hand clenched in his waistcoat, and he watched the clock on the mantel move 1 hour, 2 hours, 3, and he did not put her down. He did not know how to put her down. He had not held her in 16 months, and he was afraid that if he let go of her tonight, he would wake tomorrow and not remember how. At 4 in the morning, Abigail came back down. She knocked once. She came in without waiting. "Mr. Hale, Miss Reed." "Give her to me, sir. You must sleep." "I cannot." "You must." "Miss Reed." "Nathaniel." It was the first time she had said it. He looked up. He looked at her a long time, and he did not correct her. "Give her to me, Nathaniel. I will put her to bed. You will go upstairs and you will lie down. That is an order from your governess, sir. I have 50 days. 43. 43 then. I am using one of them tonight. Give her to me." He gave her to him. He gave her Lucy warm and sleeping, and his hands shook as he transferred the weight, and for one instant, Abigail's fingers brushed his at Lucy's back, and neither of them moved. Then she turned and carried the child out. He sat in the dark of his study, and he did not go to bed. He watched the door she had walked through until the pale summer dawn came into the window, and he knew. Morning at Hale House after that night was not like any morning that had come before it. Lucy woke up and went straight to her father's room, which she had not done since her mother died, and she climbed onto his bed and said, "Papa, are you awake?" And Nathaniel Hale, who had been awake since 2 a.m., said, "I am, darling." And Lucy said, "Can I have my breakfast with you today, Papa?" And Nathaniel said, "Yes, Lucy, every day, from now on, if you want." She wanted. She ate with him at the long table that morning, and she ate with him the next morning and the next. And by the fourth morning she was asking him questions about the boats on the river, and whether the bay mare was going to foal in August or September, and Nathaniel Hale was answering her in full sentences like a father. And Martha Hale sat at the far end of the table with her hand pressed to her throat and tried not to let anyone see her cry. Abigail ate in the nursery as she had been instructed on her first day. She did not come down to breakfast. She did not come down to dinner. She took her meals alone out of a tray, and she kept her 50-day bargain as carefully as she had agreed to keep it, and she did not cross into the rooms where she had not been invited to cross. On the 6th morning, Lucy stopped at the nursery door with a plate in her hand. "Miss Lucy, Papa says you are to come down to breakfast." "Did he now?" "He says it is silly that you eat up here when we eat down there, and he says it is wasting cook's legs, and he says you are to come down." "Did he say please?" The child hesitated. "No, miss." "Then tell your papa I am very grateful for his concern for cook's legs, but I do not come to the table without an invitation, and I do not take an order from a man as though I were his horse." "Miss, go on, Lucy. Tell him exactly that." Lucy went. Lucy came back 10 minutes later, breathless, grinning. "Miss, he laughed." "Did he?" "Out loud, miss. In the hall." Mr. Pike heard it. "Mr. Pike has not heard Papa laugh since... I know, sweetheart." "And he says, Miss Reed, I beg you will favor us with your company at breakfast. Please. Tell your papa I will consider it." "Miss..." "Go on, tell him." Lucy went cackling. Abigail sat down on the nursery bed and put her face in her hands, and she was not sure whether she was laughing or crying. She went down the next morning. She sat 3 chairs down from Nathaniel, and she did not speak unless spoken to, and she answered in full sentences, and she did not meet his eyes. He knew she was not meeting his eyes. He did not meet hers either. Martha Hale watched them both over her teacup, and said nothing, and thought a great deal. The first time he touched her after that was by accident. Lucy was running in the garden in the long, slow heat of a July afternoon, and Lucy tripped on a stone and fell, and Abigail was closer, but Nathaniel was faster, and they both reached for the child at the same instant, and their hands closed his over hers, over Lucy's small forearm. They froze. Lucy laughed. Lucy said, "I am not hurt, Papa. I am not hurt, miss." And Lucy got up and ran. Their hands did not move. For one long second, in full daylight in the middle of his mother's garden, Nathaniel Hale's hand was on Abigail Reed's hand, and neither of them breathed. He pulled back first. "Forgive me, Miss Reed." "There is nothing to forgive, sir." "Miss Reed." "Nothing, Mr. Hale." She walked away from him. She walked to the far end of the garden where Lucy had gone, and she did not look back, and her own pulse was so loud in her ears, she could not hear the child calling her name. That was the afternoon Eleanor Whitcomb saw. She had come up to the house unannounced in her cream muslin with a basket of preserves for Martha, and she had come through the side gate of the garden the way she always did, and she had seen a governess and a master of a house freeze over a child's arm, like 2 people caught in a sin they had not yet committed. Eleanor did not say a word. She smiled. She kissed Martha. She delivered her preserves. She stayed for tea. She went home. And on her way home, she stopped in the town of Hudson Landing at the dress shop, and she stopped at the milliner's, and she stopped at the post, and by Thursday it was all over the county. The widow Hale's new governess was after him. The widow Hale's new governess was the daughter of a bankrupt. The widow Hale's new governess had been seen in broad daylight, allowing Mr. Hale to lay hands on her in the garden. The widow Hale's new governess was not what she appeared. Reverend Samuel Price rode up to Hale House on the following Monday. He came to the study, and he sat down across from Nathaniel, and he took off his hat, and he set it on his knee. Nathaniel. Samuel. I would rather be shot than say what I have come to say. Say it. Abigail Reed. Nathaniel's jaw set. Yes. They are saying things, Nathaniel, in town, at the tavern, at the Lyceum. My wife heard it at the dry goods store yesterday from 3 different women. What are they saying, Samuel? I will not repeat it in this house. Say it. Nathaniel. Reverend Price, you will say it or you will leave. Samuel Price closed his eyes. He opened them. They are saying she seduced you. They are saying she schemed her way into this house on the strength of her father's ruin. They are saying she is using Lucy as a bridge to your name. They are saying she was seen in the garden with you. They are saying a great deal, Nathaniel, and most of it is cruel, and I did not come here because I believe any of it. I came because you deserve to hear it from a friend. From whom? Nathaniel. From whom did it start, Samuel? You know from whom. Nathaniel Hale stood up. He stood up very slowly, and he walked to the window, and he stood with his back to Reverend Price for 1 full minute, and when he turned, his face was the face from the first night in that study, the carved winter face, the face that had looked Abigail Reed over like livestock. Thank you, Samuel, for coming. Nathaniel. You have done me a kindness. I will see you out. Nathaniel, what will you do? I do not know yet. Do not do anything foolish. I have not done anything foolish yet in my life, Samuel. That, my friend, is exactly what worries me. Abigail did not know. Not that day. Not the next. What she knew was that Lucy came back from Sunday service with her face set like a small stone, and Lucy went straight up the stairs, and Lucy shut the nursery door. And when Abigail followed her in, Lucy was sitting on the bed with her hands in fists in her lap. Lucy. Miss. What happened at church, sweetheart? Nothing. Lucy. Miss, I do not want to say. Lucy Hale, look at me. What did you hear? The child's mouth trembled. They were whispering about you, miss. Mrs. Stillman and Mrs. Cobb and the lady with the green bonnet. Behind their hands. When Papa went to speak to the Reverend, they were saying, What were they saying, Lucy? They were saying you were a bad woman, miss. They said you were going to ruin my Papa. They said Papa was a fool, and you were a... Stop, Lucy. You do not need to say the word. Miss, I heard it. I know you did. I know. I wanted to shout at them, miss. I wanted to. And I did not know if I should. I did not know if shouting at them would make it worse for you. Oh, Lucy. Miss, it isn't true, is it? No, sweetheart. You are not a bad woman. No. You are not going to ruin my Papa. No, Lucy, I am not. Then why are they saying it? Abigail sat down on the bed beside the child. She took both of Lucy's small fists in her hands. She uncurled them 1 finger at a time. Because people who are frightened, Lucy, say ugly things about the people who are changing. That is all. It is a very old story. It happens in every town, in every country, and every year. It is not your fault, and it is not mine. Do you hear me? Yes, miss. Shall I tell you what we will do about it? Yes, miss. We will not listen. But, miss, we will not listen, Lucy. We will keep our house. We will keep our lessons. We will keep our walks and our suppers and our reading. We will keep ourselves. And the women with the green bonnets will find somebody else to whisper about by and by, and we will still be here. What if they do not find somebody else? Then we will outlive them, sweetheart. That is another fine American virtue. Lucy almost smiled. Miss. Yes, Lucy. I do not want you to go away. I am not going anywhere. Papa says there is going to be a party. Abigail went very still. A party, Lucy. In 3 weeks. Grandmama says Papa has to. She says it is the summer gathering, and if he does not have it this year, everyone in the county will know something is wrong. She says Papa has to have it, and you have to be there. She was very fierce, miss. I heard her through the door. Did she now? Miss, will you go? I do not know yet, sweetheart. Please go, miss. Please. I do not want to be there without you. Abigail did not answer the child. She kissed her hair. She held her for a long time. Downstairs in the study, she could hear Martha Hale and Nathaniel arguing in voices kept low for a child's sake, and she could not make out the words, and she did not need to. She knew what the argument was. She knew she was the argument. Nathaniel sent for her that night. She came down in the plain gray dress. She stood in the door of the study. She did not sit. Miss Reed, Mr. Hale, I am going to speak plainly. Please do, sir. I intend to increase your wage. From $60 a quarter to $100. I intend also to give you a formal title, Mistress of Education for my daughter. You will no longer eat in the nursery. You will sit at my table. You will have a bedroom on the second floor with the family. You will be given a full day off every Sunday and the use of a horse of your choosing from my stable. I have drawn up papers. They are here on the desk. I would like you to sign them tonight. Abigail did not move. Mr. Hale. Yes, Miss Reed. Is this because of what they are saying in the town? He did not answer. Mr. Hale. Is this because of what they are saying in the town? Miss Reed. Answer me, sir. You owe me that. Yes, Miss Reed, it is. You think to buy me respectability. I think to correct a situation in which you are being slandered through no fault of your own, yes. By giving me a title, yes. By raising my wage, yes. By seating me at your table, yes. So that when the town asks what Abigail Reed is to Nathaniel Hale, you may answer them that she is a well-compensated officer of his household, and there is an end to it. Miss Reed, I am trying to protect you. Mr. Hale, you are trying to hide me. The silence in the study cracked open. Miss Reed, you are hiding me, sir, behind a salary, behind a title, behind a room on the second floor. You are hiding what you felt in the garden on Thursday, and you are hiding what you felt on the stairs on the night I came, and you are hiding what you felt in this very study when you put your daughter back into your own arms, and you are asking me to sign a paper that will let you go on hiding it for the rest of your life. No, Mr. Hale. No, sir. I will not sign it. Miss Reed, say it. I beg your pardon. Say it, sir, out loud, in this room, what you felt. Say it, or I walk back out of that door tonight, and not even the Reverend Price himself will bring me back. Abigail, say it, Nathaniel. He crossed the room. He crossed it in 4 strides, and he took her face in both his hands, and he did not kiss her. He looked at her. I am 43 days behind you, he said, quiet, low. I have been 43 days behind you, Abigail Reed, since you walked out of this house in the rain, and my daughter screamed you back into it. I cannot sleep. I cannot eat. I cannot look at my own child without seeing your hands in her hair. I am a widower. I am the master of this county. I am 38 years of age, and I have been reduced, Abigail, to a man who stands at his own window and waits for the sound of your step. I will not sign your papers either. I came to this study to offer them to you, and I could not draw one full breath while I did it. Is that what you wanted to hear? Is that plain enough for you? Nathaniel, tell me to stop. I will not. Tell me to stop, Abigail. Nathaniel Hale. I told you on the first night I walked into this house I do not weep anymore. Do not make a liar of me now. He kissed her. He kissed her with his whole grief and his whole terror and his whole long iron year of holding himself alone, and she kissed him back, and neither of them was gentle, and neither of them was careful, and when he broke away at last, he pressed his forehead to hers, and he said against her mouth, I do not know how to do this, Abigail. I know Nathaniel. I have done it wrong once already. I know. I will not do it wrong with you. No, sir, you will not. Abigail. Yes. Marry me. Not tonight, Nathaniel. What? Not tonight, love. Not like this. Not with the whole county baying at the door and your daughter asleep upstairs not knowing. Not on the night you tried to buy me off with a title. No. You will ask me again, Nathaniel Hale. You will ask me again when you have stood in front of your town and your mother and your wife's cousin, and your own history, and you have said my name out loud, where all of them can hear you, and you are not hiding behind one thing. Then you will ask me. Then I will answer you. Abigail. Give me that, Nathaniel. Give me a proposal I can say yes to without bringing shame to your daughter. He closed his eyes. He pressed his forehead against hers, and he breathed out long and slow, and he laughed once without any humor in it, and he said, You are a hard woman, Abigail Reed. I am a fair woman, Nathaniel Hale. 3 weeks, then. 3 weeks. The summer gathering. Yes. In front of all of them. In front of every one of them. Abigail. They will try to break you. I know that, Nathaniel. Eleanor will try to break you. I know that too. And you are still saying yes. I am saying, sir, that I will stand in your house on that night in a dress of my choosing, and I will look your wife's cousin in the face, and I will not bow. And you will come across that room to me, Nathaniel, and you will do what you did not do on the stairs on the first night. You will cross the last 12 feet, in front of all of them, and then I will be yours. Abigail. Say you will, Nathaniel. I will. Swear it. On my life. On Lucy's. He caught his breath. On Lucy's. Then I will see you at the gathering, Mr. Hale. She stepped back out of his hands. She curtsied. She walked to the study door. She opened it. She turned in the doorway. Nathaniel? Yes, Abigail. Burn the papers. And she went up the stairs. Well, 3 weeks is a short time in some houses and a long time in others. In Hale House, it was the longest 3 weeks anyone in that household had ever lived. Lucy did not know. They did not tell her. Lucy only knew that her papa smiled at her governess now at supper, and her governess blushed at the soup, and Grandmama was doing something with the blue silk that had been packed in the attic since before Lucy was born. Grandmama. Yes, Lucy. Why are you cutting up Mama's old gown? Because, my love, it is time that it was worn again. Who is going to wear it? You will see, sweetheart. Grandmama. You will see on Saturday. In town in those same 3 weeks, Eleanor Whitcomb did not rest. She visited the Cobbs. She visited the Stillmans. She visited the old ladies at the landing who had known Nathaniel's wife as a girl. She wept prettily in all of their parlors. She spoke of her cousin's memory. She spoke of little Lucy's vulnerability. She spoke of how she had tried, truly she had tried to warn dear Nathaniel, but the poor man was lonely and the governess was well. She did not finish the sentence. She never finished the sentence. That was how she did it. By Friday before the gathering, there was not a matron in Hudson Landing who did not know from 3 separate sources that Abigail Reed was a schemer, a husband hunter, a fallen woman of fallen people, a girl whose own father's debts had put her in that house, and who would do anything to climb back up out of the dirt he had buried her in. They were going to come to the gathering, every one of them. They were going to come to see. Saturday came hot and bright and high summer. Carriages began arriving at Hale House at 4 in the afternoon. 2 matched teams from the Stillman place, the Cobbs and all 4 of their daughters, Judge Aldrich and his wife, the Van Horns from up the river, Reverend Price and Mrs. Price, Eleanor Whitcomb in pale rose silk with her hair dressed high on the arm of her brother. The drawing rooms filled, the candles went up, the fiddlers tuned, and the whole of Hudson Landing County society in its best summer linens turned its face up the grand staircase of Hale House and waited. Lucy stood at the bottom of the staircase with her hand in her grandmother's. Grandmama. Yes, darling. Is she coming down? She is coming down, sweetheart. Is Papa going to be kind to her tonight? Your Papa Lucy is going to astonish you tonight. At the top of the staircase, Abigail Reed stepped out of the shadow of the hall. She was in the pale blue silk of Nathaniel's dead wife, cut down and refitted by Martha Hale with her own hands. And she was not wearing jewels, and she was not wearing feathers. And her chestnut hair was in one low plain knot, and her pearl earrings were her mother's. And she came down the staircase of Hale House, the way a woman comes down, who has decided that tonight she is going to find out what her life is going to be. The whole room went quiet. Eleanor Whitcomb's fan paused mid-motion. Nathaniel Hale at the foot of the stairs looked up. He did not speak. He did not have to. Abigail reached the last step. Eleanor stepped forward. Miss Reed. Mrs. Whitcomb. What a very brave dress. Thank you, ma'am. Brave, I said. I heard you, ma'am. Do you not think, my dear, that that particular blue might be, how shall I say, better left to the woman it was made for? The room went still. Abigail Reed smiled. She smiled small and steady and unafraid, and she looked Eleanor Whitcomb directly in the face, and she said, Mrs. Whitcomb, the woman it was made for is dead. She is dead, and she was kind, and I did not know her, and I would have liked to. Her mother-in-law cut down this gown for me with her own hands this week, because she believed and I believe that a dress worn with love does not belong to the dead. It belongs to whatever woman stands in it next and does it honor. I will try, ma'am, to do it honor tonight. That is all I can promise you. That is all I can promise anyone in this room. Nobody moved. Eleanor's mouth opened. Eleanor's mouth closed. And from the back of the drawing room, Martha Hale said very quietly, very clearly, in the voice of a woman who had been waiting 16 months to say it, Well said, Miss Reed. And then Nathaniel Hale crossed the floor. He crossed it all. Every foot of it. Past Eleanor. Past Reverend Price. Past Judge Aldrich and the Stillmans and the Cobbs and the Van Horns. He crossed the last 12 feet of the drawing room of his own house, in his own black coat, in front of every soul in the county who mattered, and he stopped in front of Abigail Reed at the foot of his staircase, and he took her hand, and he lifted it, and he kissed it. And he said loud enough for every single ear in that room to hear him, Miss Reed, will you do me the honor of marrying me? Abigail's chin did not shake. Yes, Mr. Hale. Before all these good people. Before all these good people. Tonight. Tonight, sir, if the Reverend is willing. Reverend Price from the far end of the drawing room said in a carrying voice. The Reverend is very willing, Nathaniel. The Reverend is, as it happens, uncommonly willing. And Lucy Hale Small, 7 years old, in the white muslin her grandmother had made, her let go of her grandmother's hand, and she ran the length of the drawing room, and she hit her father and her governess together at the waist, and she held on, and Nathaniel Hale lifted his daughter up into the one arm he was not using to hold Abigail's hand, and he turned all three of them together, and he faced the room of the county that had spent 3 weeks whispering his name. Eleanor Whitcomb was already walking toward the door. She was walking fast with her pale rose silk catching on a chair and her brother hurrying after her, and nobody in the room stopped her, and nobody in the room called her back. And when the front door of Hale House shut behind her, it shut on a sound Abigail Reed would remember for the rest of her life. The sound of a room full of people very quietly, one by one, beginning to applaud. The Reverend Price married them in the front drawing room of Hale House at 20 minutes past 9 that same night. He did not give them a sermon. He did not need to. He stood in front of the fireplace, and he opened his small black book, and he said the words he had said 100 times at 100 weddings in his 40-year ministry, and this time, for the first time, he said them with his voice cracking. Do you, Nathaniel William Hale, take this woman? I do, Samuel. Do you, Abigail Louise Reed, take this man? I do, Reverend. Before God and these witnesses. Before God and these witnesses. Then by the authority vested in me by the presbytery of this county and by the laws of the state of New York, I pronounce you this 30th day of July, in the year of our Lord 1817, husband and wife. Nathaniel, my friend, you may kiss her. He kissed her. He kissed her with his daughter still in the crook of his left arm, and Lucy Hale, who had never been to a wedding, laughed out loud against her father's shoulder, and the room full of Hudson Landing society applauded a second time, and Martha Hale did not even try to hide her tears. Judge Aldrich signed the register as witness. Reverend Price signed as officiant. Martha Hale signed as mother of the groom. And when the pen reached Abigail, she set it against the paper, and her hand shook once, and she wrote her new name in full, Abigail Louise Reed Hale. And she set the pen down, and she breathed out a breath she felt she had been holding for 8 months. The county went home at midnight. They went home in their carriages, talking of nothing else. They went home knowing they had been present at something, and they were not quite sure what it had been, but they knew they would tell the story of it for 30 years, and they knew that the story would not be the one Eleanor Whitcomb had tried to plant. It would be the other one. The true one. The one in which a man had crossed a drawing room. Upstairs that same night, Lucy Hale was put to bed by both of them. She would not have it any other way. She sat up in her small bed in her nightdress, and she looked at them, her papa, in his black coat, her miss in the pale blue silk, and her eyes were enormous. "Papa." "Yes, my girl." "Is she my mama now?" Nathaniel did not answer straight away. He looked at Abigail. Abigail looked back at him. It was Abigail who spoke. "Lucy." "Yes, miss." "Not miss any more, sweetheart." "What do I call you?" "I cannot tell you that, Lucy. That is for you to choose." "Why is it for me?" "Because you had a Mama Lucy Hale. You had a good mama, and she loved you, and nobody is going to take her place. Not me, not any woman in this whole country. So I am not going to ask you to call me Mama Sweetheart. That word belongs to her. Then what? Whatever you like." What if I just call you Abigail?" "Then you shall." What if someday I did want to call you Mama?" Abigail's throat closed. "Then Lucy Hale you may, on the day you want to and not a day before, and I will answer to it." "Abigail." "Yes, sweet girl." "I picked already. I was only asking." Nathaniel made a small sound. "Which did you pick, Lucy?" Abigail said. "Mama." Abigail sat down on the edge of the bed. She took the child's hand. She kissed her knuckles. She said very quietly, "Then that is my name, Lucy Hale." The child fell asleep in about 4 minutes flat. They did not speak for a long time, Nathaniel and Abigail, when they walked out of that nursery. They walked down the hall, hand in hand. They stopped at the door of the big front bedroom, and Nathaniel set his hand on the latch, and he did not open it. "Abigail." "Yes, husband." "Say that again." "Yes, husband." "Abigail." "Nathaniel." I have not been in this room since she died." Abigail went quiet. "Not once. Not once. I took a smaller room at the back. I could not sleep here. I could not. My mother had it aired and dressed for us tonight. I do not know if I can." "Then we will not." "Abigail." "Nathaniel Hale, listen to me. We are not sleeping in that room tonight. Not because I am not willing, because you are not ready. And I am not going to be another thing you do in that bed with your jaw set and your eyes closed because a man is supposed to." "Abigail, take me to the small room at the back." He took her to the small room at the back. He took her there, and he closed the door, and he sat down on the edge of the narrow bed, and he put his face in his hands, and she sat down beside him, and she put her arm across his shoulders, and she held him quiet for a long time. "I did not mean to bring her into this room," he said at last, muffled, through his fingers. "I did not mean to—" "Hush, Nathaniel." "Abigail, I am a grown man, and on my wedding night I cannot—" "Hush!" "Abigail, Nathaniel, you have been a widower for 16 months. I have been a bride for 3 hours. We have 40 years, God willing. We do not have to spend all of them tonight." He laughed once, shaking. "Where did you come from, Abigail Reed?" "Hillsgate Farm, sir." "Thank God for Hillsgate Farm." "Thank God for Reverend Price." "Thank God for my daughter Abigail. Without her—" "I know, Nathaniel, I know." They did not consummate the marriage that night. They lay down on the narrow bed in that small back room in their clothes, and she put her head on his chest, and he put his hand in her hair, and they slept. Truly slept, both of them. For the first time in a year, for her, and for 16 months for him, they slept through the night without once waking. When the morning came, he kissed her slow and sure, and she kissed him back. And what happened after that was between them, and the door was closed, and it was not a grief, and it was not a duty. It was a beginning. The first hard week of their marriage came 3 days later, when Eleanor Whitcomb returned fire. She did not come to the house. She was not fool enough for that. She went instead to the county court at Hudson Landing, and she filed a petition, and the petition was delivered to Hale House at 10 o'clock on a Wednesday morning by a clerk with a pale face who would not meet Nathaniel's eye. Nathaniel read the petition in his study. He read it twice. He set it down on his desk. He said quiet to Jonas Pike at the door, "Get my wife." Abigail came. "Sit, Abigail." "What is it, Nathaniel?" "Sit, love, please." She sat. "Eleanor Whitcomb has petitioned the county court for custody of Lucy." Abigail did not move. "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that the child's father has entered a marriage of moral irregularity with a woman of ruined family, that the child has been exposed to an unsuitable domestic influence, that the child's welfare is endangered, and that the dead mother's family is the child's only remaining moral protection." "Nathaniel." "Yes." "She is trying to take Lucy." "Yes, Abigail. That is what she is trying to do." "Can she?" "She can try. The court is composed of men of this county. Judge Aldrich was at our wedding. He applauded. But there are 2 other judges on the bench, and one is her uncle on her mother's side." "Nathaniel." "I know." "Lucy cannot lose us. Not now. Nathaniel, she cannot. She is only just—" "I know Abigail. She told me I was her mama on Saturday, Nathaniel. She told me 4 days ago, if they take her—" "They will not take her." "How do you know?" "Because I will not let them." "Nathaniel, the law—" "The law is not everything, Abigail. It is a great deal. It is not everything." "What are you saying?" "I am saying, love, that I have been a man of this county for 20 years. I am saying that half of the men on that bench owe my family a courtesy. I am saying that Judge Aldrich is an honest man, and Reverend Price will testify, and my mother will testify, and Jonas Pike will testify, and the servants will testify, and Lucy herself. God forgive me for even saying it. Lucy herself may be asked, and my daughter will tell the truth. She is 7 years old, Nathaniel." "I know. We cannot put her on a stand." "We may have no choice." Abigail closed her eyes. "I am going to be sick." "Abigail." "I am going to be sick, Nathaniel. They are trying to take her because of me. Because I walked into this house. Because I did not know my place. Because I— Abigail Louise Hale." "Nathaniel." "You will stop that sentence. You will stop it right now. You hear me?" "Nathaniel." "You did not do this. Eleanor did this. Eleanor has been trying to do this in one form or another for 14 months. If it had not been you, it would have been someone else. If I had married nobody, she would have come for Lucy by and by anyway. She wants the child, Abigail, because the child is the last piece of my wife's family, and she wants my name with it. This is not your fault. This is not yours. Do not take it. Do you hear me, love? Do not take it." "Nathaniel." "Say it back to me. It is not my fault." "Again." "It is not my fault." "Again, Abigail." "It is not my fault, Nathaniel." "Good." They did not tell Lucy. Not at first. Nathaniel would not allow it. But Lucy was 7, and Lucy had lived her whole life in a house where adults whispered, and Lucy knew. She knew on Thursday because Jonas Pike came in white-faced from the post, and she knew on Friday because her grandmama cried into her handkerchief at breakfast, and she knew on Saturday because she came down the hall in her stockings, and she heard her papa say the word court. She came into her mama's room. Abigail's room now at 9:30 that night in her nightdress, and she climbed into the bed and she said, "Mama." Yes, Lucy. Aunt Eleanor wants to take me away. Abigail went still. Lucy, doesn't she? Who told you that, sweetheart? Nobody told me. I heard Papa. Lucy, look at me. Your Papa and I are not going to let anyone take you, not Aunt Eleanor, not a judge, not anyone. Mama? Yes, love. If they do take me. Lucy. Mama, listen. If they do take me, will you come and get me? Lucy Hale. Will you, Mama? If they take me to Albany, or to New York, or anywhere, will you come? Abigail took her daughter's face in her two hands. Lucy, listen to me. Listen to me. I will walk to New York. I will walk to Boston. I will walk to the Mississippi River if I have to. I will put on my boots, and I will come across this whole country for you, and I will find you, and I will bring you back. Do you hear me? Yes, Mama. Say it. You will come and get me. Yes, baby. Promise. I promise. On what? On you, Lucy. On you. And Lucy cried, and Abigail cried, and when Nathaniel came in an hour later, he found the two of them asleep in the bed together. Lucy's hand fisted in Abigail's nightgown the way it had been fisted in her waistcoat the night he had held her all through till dawn, and he stood in the doorway of that room, and he decided something. He decided it standing there. The hearing was set for Friday of the following week. Nathaniel Hale went on the Monday before to every single man who had sat at his table that wedding night, and he asked for nothing. He only sat, and he talked, and he let them see his face. He went to Judge Aldrich's house. He went to the Van Horns. He went to the Cobbs. He went to the Stillmans. He went to Reverend Price. He did not beg. He did not need to. By Thursday night, the whole of Hudson Landing County knew that Eleanor Whitcomb had tried to take a 7-year-old child away from her father because she herself had hoped to marry him, and the county slowly, quietly by Thursday evening had turned. That was the first thing. The second thing was Martha Hale. Martha Hale rode into town herself on Thursday in her own old carriage, and Martha Hale visited every matron in the county who had ever taken tea with Eleanor Whitcomb, and Martha Hale did not say very much at all. She only sat, and she drank her tea, and she said at the end of each visit very softly, "My son's wife is the first good thing that has happened in that house in 16 months. I thought you ought to know Margaret. I thought you ought to know Hester. I thought you ought to know Prudence." That was all she said. It was enough. The hearing was held on Friday morning in the old county courthouse at Hudson Landing. Eleanor Whitcomb came in pale rose silk again. She came in with her brother and her lawyer and her petition, and she sat very straight in her chair, and she did not look at Nathaniel Hale once. Nathaniel came in a plain black coat. Abigail beside him in her gray. Lucy between them in her Sunday muslin. Martha Hale behind them. Jonas Pike behind her. And this was the thing: no one had expected Reverend Samuel Price and Judge Aldrich as private witness, and 17 men and 9 women of Hudson Landing County filling every bench in the gallery. The case was heard by the 3 judges of the county bench. Eleanor's lawyer rose first. He spoke for 40 minutes. He spoke of moral influence. He spoke of a governess's irregular path to the master's bed. He spoke of the shock to polite society. He spoke of a little girl's need for the protection of her mother's blood. Abigail sat through every word of it. She did not flinch. She did not weep. She kept her hand the whole time under the bench closed around Lucy's small fingers, and she did not let go. When the lawyer was done, Nathaniel Hale's lawyer rose. He did not speak for 40 minutes. He spoke for 7. He said that Nathaniel Hale was the father of the child in question. He said that the mother of the child in question was dead and had been dead for 17 months. He said that the child in question was presently in this courtroom. He said that the court might wish to ask the child under no oath and in no stern voice whom she loved and where she wished to live. He sat down. The eldest judge, Judge Whitmer, a slow man with a slow voice, looked down over his spectacles, and he said, "Lucy Hale, will you come up here, child?" Lucy looked at Abigail. Abigail nodded. Lucy walked up the aisle of that courtroom by herself. 7 years old. Sunday muslin. Hair braided by her mama that morning. She climbed up into the witness chair. Judge Whitmer leaned down. "Lucy, child, nobody is cross with you. Do you understand?" "Yes, sir. I'm going to ask you 1 or 2 little questions, and you are to tell me the truth. That is all." "Yes, sir." "Lucy, who lives in your house?" "Papa, and Mama, and Grandmama, and Mr. Pike, and Cook, and Hattie, and the other Hattie." Judge Whitmer blinked. "And forgive me, child. Who is your mama?" "Her name is Abigail Louise Reed Hale, sir." "I see. And Lucy, do you love your mama?" "Yes, sir." "How much do you love her, child?" Lucy thought. Lucy thought for a long, slow moment the way 7-year-olds think when a 7-year-old has been asked a real question by a grown man for the first time in her life. And then Lucy said, "Sir, before she came I did not know grown-ups could see me. And she saw me. The very first night. In the rain. She was wet, sir. And she saw me. And she has not stopped seeing me since. So I love her, sir, with my whole heart. Is that enough, sir?" The courtroom did not move. Judge Whitmer took off his spectacles. He took them off and he pressed the back of his hand to his eyes. He put them back on. "Lucy, one last question." "Yes, sir." "Do you wish, child, to live with your Aunt Eleanor?" "No, sir." "Do you wish to live with your papa and your mama?" "Yes, sir." "Thank you, Lucy. You may step down." Lucy stepped down. She walked back down the aisle. She climbed up between Abigail and Nathaniel. She took both their hands. Judge Whitmer conferred with his 2 colleagues for less than 3 minutes. He turned back. He said in a voice that was not loud and did not need to be, "The petition is denied. Custody remains with the father. The court finds no moral irregularity in the domestic arrangement of Hale House. The court further finds, and it pains the court to say this, that the petitioner has abused the process of this bench for private purposes unbecoming of this county. Mrs. Whitcomb, you are dismissed." Eleanor Whitcomb rose. Eleanor Whitcomb walked very pale, very stiff out of that courthouse. Her brother went after her. They got into a carriage. They drove away. And in 6 weeks, Eleanor Whitcomb had sold her house in the county and moved to New York City. And in 8 weeks, her name had faded out of Hudson Landing talk entirely the way smoke fades out of a room with the window open. Nathaniel walked out of the courthouse with his wife on one arm and his daughter on the other. He did not speak until they were out on the steps in the full hot July sun. Then he stopped. He stopped on the top step and he turned to Abigail and he said quiet in front of the whole county, "Abigail." "Yes." "I would have gone to the Mississippi River with you." "I know, Nathaniel." "I would have walked." "I know." "You are my wife." "Yes." "You are her mother." "Yes." "You are the first good thing that has happened in that house in 16 months. Your mother said that in town." She was not wrong. He kissed her on the top step of the Hudson Landing courthouse in full daylight, and Lucy Hale between them, holding both their hands, turned her small face up to the sun and closed her eyes. And that was the last of it. That was the last of the whispering. That was the last of the petitions. That was the last of the women with green bonnets, and the last of the pale rose silk, and the last of the 16 months of silence. Hale House, which had been a house of locked doors and held breath, became on that summer afternoon what Martha Hale had hoped it would become, and what Abigail Reed had promised on a wet night in July it would be. It became a home. The first real week of their life together began on the Monday after the courthouse. It did not begin in celebration. It began in the nursery at 4 o'clock in the morning with a child screaming. Abigail was up first. She was always up first. She came through the nursery door in her nightdress with her hair loose, and she had Lucy in her arms before the candle beside the bed had finished settling its flame. "Mama! Mama! She had me! She had me! She had me!" "Hush, Lucy. Hush, sweet girl. Aunt Eleanor had me, and nobody came. Nobody came. Nobody." "I am here, Lucy. I came. I am here." "You promised you would come?" "I came, baby. I am here. I am here." Nathaniel came in behind her. He did not speak. He sat down on the other side of the bed, and he laid his hand on his daughter's back, flat and warm and steady, and he kept it there. The child wept for 20 minutes. When she was done, she went limp between them, small and wrung out, and she said muffled into Abigail's shoulder, "Mama, I thought you said it was all done." "What was all done, darling?" "The bad part. I thought you said the bad part was all done." Abigail looked at Nathaniel over the child's head. Nathaniel looked back. "Lucy," Abigail said, "listen to me, sweetheart. Listen close because this is important." "Yes, Mama." "The big bad part is done. Nobody is taking you away. Aunt Eleanor is gone. The judge said so. Papa said so. I said so. That part is finished. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mama." "But the feeling of it, Lucy, the feeling of being afraid you were going to lose us, that part is going to take longer. That part does not go away in one day. That part is going to come and knock on your door at night for a while, sweetheart, and it is going to wake you up, and you are going to cry, and Mama and Papa are going to come. Every single time. Do you hear me? Every time. Every time, Lucy Hale. Even if it is 5 times in one night. Even if it is 500 times. Papa." "Yes, Lucy." "Is that true for you too?" Nathaniel did not answer immediately. He let the question sit. He was not a man who had ever learned to lie to his daughter, and he was not going to start now. "Yes, Lucy. That is true for me too. Even Papa." "Even Papa." "Papa, what do you do when yours knocks?" "I come find your mama." "Oh. That is what grown-ups do too, Lucy. We are not so different from you. We only pretend we are." "Oh." The child slept the rest of the night between them, and she did not wake again. And at 7 in the morning, when the light came in the window, she sat up and looked at the two of them, and she said, crisp and awake, like nothing had ever been wrong, "Papa, are we going down to breakfast or what?" Nathaniel Hale laughed. He laughed out loud once, and then he laughed again, and he did not stop for almost a minute, and Abigail sat up and watched him laugh, and she knew with a flat, plain certainty that she was going to love this man for the rest of her life. Nathaniel was not instantly a better father. That is the thing Abigail insisted on remembering. Years later, she would tell it straight to anyone who asked. Her husband did not become a new man overnight. He did not shed his grief like a coat. He did not wake up tender. He had to learn. He had to learn the way grown men learn things, slowly, stubbornly, with his jaw set, making the same mistakes 2 and 3 times, and apologizing each time without grace. 2 weeks after the courthouse, he caught Lucy crying in the hall, and he said before he could stop himself, "Lucy, that is enough now." And Lucy went still the way she used to go still in the old days, and Abigail saw it from the library door, and Abigail said quiet, "Nathaniel." He turned. He saw Abigail's face. He saw Lucy's face. He went down on one knee in the hall in his good coat, and he said, "Lucy, I am sorry. That was the old Papa. I did not mean it. Will you try that over again?" And Lucy, 7 years old, arms crossed, face wet, said, "Papa, you have to do better." "I know I do, Lucy. You cannot keep doing it and then saying sorry." "I know. That is not fair." "I know, my girl. You are right. Will you help me?" "How can I help you, Papa?" "Tell me when I do it, every time. Out loud. Every time. Every time, Lucy. You may say, Papa, you are being the old Papa. And I will stop. Even if there are people. Even if there are people. Even if it is the Reverend. Even if it is the Reverend. Even if it is the President of the United States." He smiled. "Even if it is the President, Lucy." "All right, Papa." He picked her up. He carried her down the hall. He said against her hair, "I was never very good at being a Papa, Lucy. I am going to try to learn. Your Mama is going to help me. You are going to help me. We are all going to help each other. Is that all right?" "Yes, Papa." "Say it back. We are going to help each other." Good girl. Abigail watched from the library door, and she did not say a word. And when Nathaniel came back without the child, he found his wife sitting on the leather settee, and he sat down next to her, and he put his head in her lap. "Abigail." "Yes." I am going to fail at this. Often, Nathaniel. Daily. Quite possibly, yes. And you will still be here. Try to get me to leave, husband. He laughed once into her skirts, and she put her hand in his hair, and they sat there until Martha Hale rang the bell for supper. Martha Hale lived another 9 years. She lived long enough to see Hale House become something she had stopped believing it would ever be. She lived long enough to watch her son laugh at his own dinner table. She lived long enough to sit in the nursery with her granddaughter and teach her to stitch a straight seam, and long enough to hold in her 82nd year the newest Hale of the line. That was the other thing. Abigail Hale gave birth to a boy in the April of 1819. She labored for 31 hours in the big front bedroom of Hale House, the room Nathaniel had not entered in 16 months, the room he had not even crossed the threshold of on his wedding night, and Nathaniel did not leave that room one time in all 31 hours. He held her hand when she let him. He walked the length of the room when she could not stand the touch of anything. He said her name when she had stopped being able to hear her own name. And when the midwife laid a red, wrinkled, furious little boy on Abigail's chest at 4:30 in the morning, Nathaniel Hale sat down in the chair beside his wife's bed, and he put his face in his hands, and he wept. Nathaniel. Yes, Abigail. Look at him. I cannot love. I cannot yet. Nathaniel. Give me a moment, Abigail. Give me one moment. Why can you not husband? Because, Abigail. Because I did not think. I did not think I would get a second one. A second what, my love? A second chance. Abigail reached out her hand. She put it on the back of his neck. She drew him down until his forehead was against hers and the baby between them. Look at him, Nathaniel. He looked. He looked at his son, very small, very red, very loud, and he said in a voice that cracked in 3 different places, Abigail, he has your chin. He has your nose, Nathaniel Hale. Poor boy. What shall we name him, love? Not after me. No. No, not after me, not after my father. I am done, Abigail, with naming boys for the dead. Let him be his own man. Let him have a name nobody in this family has worn. Let him start clean. Then let us call him Samuel. Samuel, after the man who married us in that drawing room. After the man who stood up for us in that courtroom. Yes? Samuel Hale. Samuel Hale. Abigail. Yes. Where is Lucy? Where is our girl? Get our girl. Lucy was brought in. She was 9 years old by then, tall, bold, outspoken, a child nobody in the county would have recognized from the thin, silent creature of 2 years before, and she climbed up onto the bed with her mama, and her papa set the baby in her lap. Lucy Hale, meet your brother. Lucy looked at Samuel. Lucy said very seriously, Papa, he is very ugly. All babies are ugly, Lucy. Was I ugly, Papa? You were the ugliest baby in the state of New York, Lucy. Papa, I loved you anyway. Papa, you are being silly. I am being silly. I know, it is on purpose. Mama. Yes, Lucy. Is it always like this now? Abigail laughed, weary whole alive. Yes, sweet girl, it is always like this now. Eleanor Whitcomb was never heard from in Hale House again. A letter came once in the first year offering reconciliation. Martha Hale read it, folded it in quarters, and put it directly into the fire. Nathaniel was not even told about it until a month afterward, and when Martha confessed what she had done, he kissed her on the forehead and said, Thank you, Mother, and never referred to the letter again. Eleanor married a merchant in New York City in the 3rd year of their marriage. The merchant was wealthy. The merchant was dull. The merchant had no children by his first wife and wanted none by his second. Abigail heard about this through the usual channels, and Abigail said nothing about it, and Abigail felt quietly something that was not pity and not triumph, but something in between. A woman who had tried to take her daughter was going to spend her old age in a fine house in New York with a husband who did not love her. That was a sentence Abigail Hale was not going to add a single word to. Die. The county remembered. The county remembered for a long time. Mothers in Hudson Landing would tell the story to their daughters. Daughters would tell it to their nieces. The story about the summer of 1817. The story about the governess in the blue dress at the top of the staircase. The story about the man who crossed the last 12 feet of his drawing room in front of the whole county. The story about the 7-year-old child who had told a judge out loud that her mama had seen her in the rain. Sometimes at weddings, old women would say, "The way Nathaniel Hale crossed to his wife, that is how a man ought to do it." Sometimes at courthouses, old lawyers would say, "The way Lucy Hale spoke to Judge Whitmer, that is how a child ought to be allowed to speak." And sometimes, on long summer evenings, women at tea in the Landing would say gentler than they had said anything about Abigail Reed in the autumn of that year. She was a fine woman. She was a fine woman in the end. We ought to have known it from the start. The last day of this story is not a day of trouble. It is the last afternoon of August 1825. 8 years after Abigail Reed walked soaked into Hale House, 6 years after the birth of Samuel, 2 years after the birth of Ruth, the third Hale child, a girl with her mother's brown eyes and her grandmother Martha's opinions. It is a Sunday. The whole family is on the lawn behind the house. Lucy is 15. Lucy is tall and sharp-tongued, and the Reverend Price has been having private conversations with her father about whether it might be time one of these years to have a word about the Price boy who seems to be in Hale House more often than strictly necessary, and who does not quite seem able to look at Lucy Hale without losing the thread of whatever sentence he was attempting. Samuel is 6. Samuel is loud. Samuel is running in circles in the grass after a spaniel named Buckle, and Samuel is being scolded at regular intervals by his grandmama, and Samuel is ignoring her with the exact, thin-faced concentration his father had at the same age. Ruth is 2. Ruth is walking barely holding on to Abigail's skirts. Ruth is eating a piece of bread and butter her mother does not entirely approve of, but has decided to allow for the sake of peace. Martha Hale is in a chair under the oak tree. She is 84. She is slower than she used to be. She has a shawl on, even in August. She is watching her great-granddaughter eat bread and butter, and she is smiling. Nathaniel is sitting on the grass next to Abigail. He is 46. His hair is going gray at the temples. He has a ledger in his lap that he is pretending to read, but he is not reading it. He is watching Samuel run, and he is watching Lucy argue with the Price boy over some matter of poetry, and he is watching Ruth eat bread. Abigail is 32. Abigail is wearing a gray muslin dress. Abigail is holding her husband's hand. Abigail says quiet so only he can hear Nathaniel. "Yes, Abigail." "Do you remember the first night? Every hour of it? Do you remember what you said to me?" "I said a great many cruel things to you, Abigail. I have spent 8 years trying to make up for every one of them." "Not that." "What then?" "You said I would be dead by morning." He went quiet. "Abigail." "It is all right, Nathaniel." "It is not all right. It was never all right. I have not said those words in 8 years, and I will not say them again. I am not asking you to love. I am only telling you. I thought about those words the whole way up the stairs on the first night. I thought, well, perhaps I will. Perhaps he is right. Perhaps by morning I will be dead. Abigail. And then Lucy came down the stairs, Nathaniel, and I was not dead by morning. I was more alive, sir, than I had been in a year and a half. And the reason I am telling you this, husband, is because I want you to know. I want you to know for the rest of our lives that the first morning I did not want to die was the morning after you said that to me. Because of your daughter, and because of you, even then, even when you were cruel, even when you were afraid, even when you were behind your own window with your back to the door, even then, Nathaniel. Abigail, I am only telling you love. Abigail, do not weep at the tea table, Nathaniel Hale. Your mother is watching. Your daughter is watching. The Price boy is watching. You have a reputation in this county to uphold. He laughed wet. My reputation in this county, Abigail, is that I am hopelessly in love with my wife. That is the reputation I want you to have. That is the reputation I intend to have until I die. Good. Abigail. Yes, Nathaniel. Lucy. Yes. The Price boy. I know, Nathaniel. You are going to have to handle it. I was always going to have to handle it, my love. You know nothing about 15-year-old girls. Abigail. Yes. I know nothing about anything, really, without you. She lifted his hand. She kissed his knuckles one by one in full view of the lawn and the oak tree and her mother-in-law and her children and the Price boy and the spaniel and the August sun. She kissed his knuckles and she said, I know, husband. Come on, supper is almost ready. Your son is about to knock over your mother's chair. Your daughter is about to kiss the Price boy behind the hedge. Your second daughter is about to eat her fourth piece of bread. We have a great deal to do. He stood up. He lifted her hand. He held it. He did not let go. Nathaniel Hale of Hale House on the Hudson, a man who had once told a woman she would be dead by morning, walked back across his own lawn with her 8 years later, and he never told anyone what he had said out on the top step of the courthouse in the sun that July afternoon, because it was not for anyone else. It was only for her. He had said, Abigail, you saved my daughter. You saved my mother. You saved my house. You saved me. He had said, there is not a day left in my life, Abigail Hale, that will not belong to you. He had meant it, and the river kept moving, and the house kept standing, and Lucy Hale grew up, and Samuel Hale grew up, and Ruth Hale grew up, and 2 more Hale children after them, and the summer of 1817 became a story told by grandmothers to granddaughters in Hudson Landing. Long after Nathaniel and Abigail were both in the ground, side by side, under one stone in the churchyard where Reverend Samuel Price had married them on a July night, when the county had not yet learned what it was watching. The stone said only this: Nathaniel Hale, Abigail Hale, husband and wife, 1817 to the end. That was enough. That was all. A child's grief is not disobedience. A woman's worth is not her fortune. A man can change, and when he does, the whole house changes with him. Love is not what crosses the room in a minute. Love is what keeps walking across the room every morning for 40 years. Abigail Reed had walked into Hale House in a summer storm with nothing in her pocket, and her father's letter folded against her heart. She had walked out of it in the end, 8 children and 9 grandchildren, and 43 years later, into the Hudson Valley dirt she had decided to be buried in. And in between, she had done what she had promised Lucy Hale on the first night she held her. She had stayed. She had stayed and she had stayed and she had stayed. Until the end.